Good afternoon from the second age of reason. I'm going to talk about a popular topic these days. They call it global warming, climate change, greenhouse gases, or whatever. Recently, the Pope has been saying that the world should be more concerned about this climate change. I have also heard scientists saying that we're getting into a new stage of mass extinction, which is where numbers of species are dying off, and they blame it on global warming or climate change. And there are different groups that are really concerned about this and trying to get some action on it. And you'll say, but are there any other opinions? And yes, there's a couple of scientists who refute the evidence. And I know some people who refute the evidence. For instance, here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in July 2015, we've had a lot of days that are in the 60s, which is about 20 Fahrenheit below normal, 10 centigrades below normal. And they go, there is no global warming. Just look at how it is outside. Go outside and feel the air. It's cold. But they aren't really living in Pakistan, where hundreds or if not thousands of people are dying from the heat. And they will just say it's because it's a third world nation or something like that, or it's closer to the equator. And so they really don't look at the big picture. How can it be colder here, feels cold to the touch, and the Earth is supposed to be heating up? And I think if you look at the situation, there is a valid reason why it feels cooler today, or this year, or the next couple of years. And it's quite logical, but it's like you're in the center of a hurricane, in the eye of a hurricane. You go, the weather is just beautiful in here. What are you talking about? And because you are in the eye of the hurricane, you're in the eye of global warming, or as they call it here, the polar vortex. For some reason, the air currents have changed because of this climate change. And I'm just going to put some basic chemistry, physics information here for you. I'm not degreed in chemistry or physics, but I remember doing these experiments in school, and I think they bear out. And so, what am I getting at? It's that, okay, we've had some recent things where they said, the ice sheets are melting. In Antarctica, the ice sheets are melting. The glaciers are melting. Greenland, the ice is melting. They're looking at a possibility of the Arctic Ocean thawing out so that you could then sail your boats across the Arctic Ocean, which some will say is for commerce very advantageous. And it's happening. And the climate is feeling cool today. There is no global warming, they'll say. But when matter, such as water or ice or steam, makes a transition from one state to another state, energy is liberated. So, what has happened? A huge amount of ice and snow has melted and flowed into the oceans. Now, it may have made the oceans in certain areas cool down, which causes a cool wind from evaporative cooling to blow over the land, for now. But what has happened is that stored coolness in the ice is now gone. It's been spent. It's gone. You're not going to re-ice and build a huge glacier on top of Greenland by itself. It's not going to happen. It's not getting colder, it's getting warmer. So another chunk of ice falls into the ocean, temporarily making the water and the currents cool down, temporarily giving you some years of reasonable temperatures. But eventually, the heating effects will catch up, and the ice age will not come back by itself. And so the global warming will spread. It will come back because you've temporarily have taken a loan from the ice sheets from the Antarctica and in the Arctic. So I think it's still something we need to be concerned about. They'll say, but the sun gives us most of the heat and is probably responsible for a lot of it. Well, that's probably true to some extent. The sun does heat the earth, without which everything would die and freeze quite quickly. The sun is there. But if the sun is putting out a little more energy, you probably don't want to be adding more greenhouse gases to magnify that energy through thermal optical methods on your planet anyway. Mass extinctions are serious. Now, the dinosaurs have become extinct. Now, maybe they became extinct because temperatures dropped below freezing and they were not able to keep their young warm enough, and so they eventually died off. Dinosaurs are not a major form of food for humans, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But in this age, we have things like bees, pollinators that are dying off, and this is a big issue because it affects not just humans and things that eat fruit and that, it affects a lot of things. So yes, it's a thing to be concerned about. The trouble is that even if you recognize climate change, you have to run in with the co-opters who want to say, well, let's make these things called carbon credits. And basically carbon credits is just a way to make money off of the climate disaster, which is probably, in the most part, the result of the side effects of capitalism. And so just to make this carbon tax and carbon exchange type of thing isn't going to solve the climate change problem. It's going to simply make the poorest and least able pay for it. It still doesn't halt the process. And it still doesn't come up with alternative means of humanity or an alternative means of civilization, which I think is probably the bigger issue before us. So I just thought I'd mention it, that if you're wondering why sometimes it feels cooler out when people are talking about global warming, it's because of the huge amounts of ice and like iceberg calving and melt off of the glaciers flowing into the oceans, temporarily dropping the temperature a little bit. But that ice isn't coming back. It's gone. Enjoy your cool weather for a few years. It's going to go away. You can call it global warming if you don't like that term, climate change, but it's more important is considering it in the context of mass extinctions. Because when you're on top of the food chain, you rely on all the layers of the pyramid below the top of the food chain to support you. And as those wither and die, you're next on the list. So, with those happy words, I'll just be saying, so long for now. Be seeing you.